All right. Good morning. Morning. Can you guys hear me? Tracy, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sean.
You might have to. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for being here. I know you, at least on social media, go by the handle Texas Slim. I'm assuming, are you in Texas or where are you located?
Yeah, I'm in Texas. I'm up on top of the Cap Rock, Llano Estacado, top of Texas.
Yeah, near Lubbock. Yeah, I know where that is.
A little bit further north than that, up close to Amarillo, Texas.
Yeah, up by kind of far from Canyon and stuff like that. I went to school at Texas Tech for a period of time, so
Okay, gotcha.
I'm familiar with that from
Now,
that area. So Filll, who is one of our members of the team, one of our cardiothoracic surgeons, got us connected. And, I've been following you on Twitter recently, and you've talked about some interesting stuff about kind of a decentralized beef system leveraging the system in Texas. Texas is the largest cattle producing state in the United States. I think we have like 22 million head of cattle in Texas last I checked, which is about almost a third of our total supply. You're also, from your eyes, it looks like you're into some cryptocurrency, and I would assume Bitcoin with the laser eyes on there. And then you're
sure.
also a pro-freedom guy. Does that fairly characterize some of the stuff you're thinking about?
That's pretty much my whole life these days is Texas beef, pure animal protein, Bitcoin, decentralization, and freedom. That's basically it.
So let me ask you just to let's give me a little bit of your background. Where did you grow up? How did you get into the beef industry or interested in that? What's your background?
Well, you brought up Canyon, Texas, and that's where I was born. When I was born, it was probably about 3,000. It's probably between 12 and 14,000 people. I fled Canyon when I was about 18, 19 years old, and I went to Austin, and most of my professional life was in Austin. I was part of the technology movement there. I basically got into some really good startup companies early on. I ended up working in the intelligence labs and for telecom for about a decade. So I've had a pretty diverse background of growing up, kind of a Texas cowboy, farm boy, and then world traveler within technology and startup companies. So I have a pretty unique set of skills. Being that I came back to the Panhandle, Austin had become something that I didn't want to continue with as far as the size and the transition of amount of people that had came there. Austin's still a great place, but I wanted to get back to my roots. And coming back to my roots, I saw the cattle industry being hit really hard. And I said, well, I'm going to get back to this and I'm going to dive way down into this because you have all kinds of different beef suppliers, all kinds of beef processing. There's a lot of different facets of the beef industry that a lot of people don't know about. I embedded myself in a harvest company and I went and did some research for about 2 months, I'm sorry. And what I did is I went and talked to ranchers, I went and talked to the farmers, harvesters, and everybody that's involved with our food system. And basically our industrial food complex is a very corrupt complex. And I was able to uncover a lot of good information and some intelligence. So I kind of took a couple of steps back and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to focus on Texas. We're going to focus on the independent beef suppliers that are trying to make a go at it in Texas, who are trying to get away from the 4 big processors that are basically creating a false manipulation of a beef shortage, which there is not a beef shortage. And, us consumers are paying the price. Our cattle ranchers are going out of business and people are selling out. So I said, let's go. Let's get moving. And I'm going to use the decentralized protocol of Bitcoin, the mindset of it, the networking capabilities of it, and we're going to put all these together.
Yeah, I've as someone who, as a physician, I had no knowledge about food production or ranching, but in the last 5 years, I've learned a hell of a lot. And, I see there's a lot of problems with it, as there are probably in many industries, but
Sure.
how do you propose this is going to work? Well, maybe you could outline some of the problems we see. We got 4 packers, JBS, Tyson, Cargill, and National Beef or Marfrig, depending on which name you want to use. own 85% of the beef market in the U.S. So and there's like I just saw in Nebraska, they raised 300 million. Ranchers got 300 million together, and they're opening their own processing center. So what does this decentralized system look like in Texas? What are you envisioning? How's it going to work? What problems is it going to solve, and how's it going to solve?
Sure. I'll go back to, I always tell people to start living and looking at as your grandparents or your grandparents did. Back then they had a party line of basically of food production and supply. What we need, Nebraska, what they're doing in Nebraska is great for attention and awareness. I think they're going about it the wrong way. They're raising $300 million to compete with a multi-billion-dollar industry that controls a lot of people. My goal with this is I want 100 to 1,000 small regional and county processors across the state of Texas. Where I am in Texas, there's already 4 people doing this. One of my beef suppliers, he's already going to be his producer. He's going to grow the beef. He's going to raise the cattle, and he's going to process and supply the beef to a region of about 60 square miles. If we can do that across the state of Texas, and because Texas has some unique laws to where you can do that. A lot of people don't think you can, but you can. You can be all of the above. And that's what we used to do. We used to have the butcher in town. We used to have local beef production to where you could actually have your beef that was raised with grass just right down the street from you. If it was not down the street, it was in a radius that was very approachable. It was a lifestyle. You knew people. And so bringing this awareness is going to create a new form and a newfound lifestyle, I believe, of understanding how important animal protein is, how important pure animal protein is, and how important community is, that we are able to build mesh networks of your food and your nutrition and the strength of your communities. All of these can be leveraged in my focal point. The anchor of all this is going to be animal protein, because animal protein through the last 50 years, and especially the last 10 to 15 years, this as a doctor, they're trying to basically steal that nutrition out of our diets. And it's very dangerous. It's a psyop of education to make young men believe that they don't have to have animal protein, and young women as well. But I'm a man, so I'm going to speak towards the men. And being able to do this in the way that I'm doing it is very decentralized. It's not a centralized system. It is community based. It's going out there and shaking hands. It's looking people in the eyes and trusting, your local community to say, hey, we're going to be powerful. We're going to beat this in a micro mesh way, not going to try to go out there and go toe to toe with them playing their game. We're going to change the game. And I see it happening. I'm getting so much feedback. I'm meeting a rancher here in a couple of weeks out towards East Texas. I'm going to meet every rancher in the state of Texas that wants to be involved. And I'm not even having to really market this. I'm getting so much feedback already. And there's already some established communities. There's something called the Ogallala Commons. They're creating food sheds all across the Midwest. And they're doing it here in Texas, up here on the Llano Estacado. And basically it's a food shed system. It's community based, where you can source your protein and your produce, of course, because that's part of it too.
You said that Texas has some unique laws. I know Wyoming passed a Food Freedom Act or something like that, allowed them to sell in small quantities. In many cases, you're only allowed to sell a quarter beef, half beef, side of beef. In some places, you can't go across state lines. What's going on in Texas that's unique and makes this possible?
Well, Texas represents, most people, and I'm still digging deep into the laws, because don't quote me. My supplier, he's the one that's opened up his shed here pretty soon. But basically, the way I see it is that Texas basically represents Texas. and it is the USDA stamp. So selling within our borders of Texas, if you are approved by Texas and you are certified through Texas, that Texas certification allows you to raise your own beef, produce your own beef, process your own beef, and sell your own beef. There's some micro laws in there that we all have to be aware of, and I'll be bringing those to the forefront of understanding. Each state is going to be different, but from that standpoint of me going out and saying, hey, I want to buy a full cow, I can buy that full cow, and he can supply me that full cow. It doesn't have to have a USDA stamp on it. It has to have a Texas stamp on it. So Texas is the USDA stamp in a lot of ways.
How many, do you have any idea how many ranchers are in Texas? I know there's like 700,000 ranchers in the US. How many ranches are in Texas currently?
There are a lot. I'm still trying to compile that. And whenever we say ranchers, and this is kind of the difficult part, because we have the feedlot ranchers, we have your micro industrial feed ranchers, and then we have your organic ranchers. So we're going to have to break those down, because people are going to be very particular about their beef. They don't want it to be finished off with corn if it maybe has GMO in it. They want it to be 100% grass fed. They don't care about the marbling. And then of course you got the feedlot industrial ranchers, which I don't know, a lot of them are not going to like me too much, because they are basically catering to the 4 big processors. And so we're breaking all of those type of ranchers down. There's more than I thought there was. Even growing up in Texas, I'm amazed by how many people have basically pioneered their way into the food system in a way that I'm trying to bring to light, in that we're trying to bring a decentralized communication system and sourcing system.
Sorry, I was on mute. Do you know, when you said that, a lot of people, because it's just the way they do it, they feed into the, the feedlot system. It's basically cattle are raised here. I don't know what Texas has, but they often ship them to the Midwest, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Colorado, where all the feedlots are. Mm-hmm. And that's a system that's been in place forever. And these guys are doing it because that's where their grandparents did it or their fathers did it. But I mean, it looks like in many cases, people are organically going away from that system because it's actually even more profitable for some. I don't know if that's the case in Texas, but what's keeping them in that system?
Well, a lot of time, I think the system got hijacked many years ago because it was part of how we did it. I mean, you go back to the original cattle drives with Charles Goodnight and everybody that established the cattle drives in Texas. That's why our grandfathers did go to these feed yards or feedlots. They were here where I am up in the Amarillo region. I mean, it was a trading post for beef. If you're, during the Comanche Wars, especially. So there's a lot of history to that. Moving forward, as far as being inside of the corporate industry, they're captured. They're captured by big Cargill, big Monsanto, Bayer. I mean, we're talking global corporations that have massive power over these ranchers. The only way that I see that they can get out of the capture of this global food complex is to do the smaller micro community based type of ranching, to where you're serving more of your community. And of course you can serve it, nationally in certain ways, because you can still use your USDA. But these feedlot ranchers have always been, it's about yields. And I see the feedlot ranchers, basically, the cow has become a byproduct of the grain that is produced by these big global grain corporations. And they have contracts that they have to honor. The farmers, they have to sign a technology agreement to grow seed anymore. Well, that seed is not even grown for human consumption. It's grown to produce fatter cows. And these cows are, they have to be injected with hormones, all these types of chemicals. We all know the stories, and it's a tough rabbit hole to go down, but I'm exposing it a little bit at a time. And I have utmost respect for feedlot ranchers because they're surviving right now. But there is going to be a way out because a lot of organic type of ranching is starting to happen in Texas, and people are really starting to pay attention. And we don't have to worry about the quantity of beef anymore. We need to really focus on the quality first.
You know, and somebody looked this up for us. They said there's basically 250,000 ranches in Texas, which is quite a few ranches. So you got a lot of folks to choose from.
Right.
I don't know what, you know, and I would imagine much of Texas beef gets exported out of Texas if that's the case, because you say we don't have to worry about the quantity, just the quality. How do you, I mean, are we looking at a reduction in quality or in quantity rather to meet this quality, or how do you continue feeding people? I mean, I eat a lot of beef. I mean, I eat 3 pounds a day.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm concerned about having enough food to eat. So I mean,
Right.
how do we make those things happen?
You know, it's never a beef shortage. They basically pump the quantity up, and then they manipulate the quantity, and that's all done by the big four processors. We will never have to sacrifice our quality for quantity for quality, but it's happened because of profit gouging through the four processors. We're seeing that right now. Why is beef up 50%? It's not because of we're a shortage of cows. It's because they are basically creating a food supply chain, basically manipulation shortage. And they're saying that, you know, that we have to have higher yields, and with higher yields, that means that we're pumping more chemicals into these cows. That doesn't have to happen. And that's something that I have to expose in a very small and gradual way, because it's hard to understand in the long run. People need that foundation of knowledge. So we're never going to have a beef shortage. What we're going to have, and what they are trying to do, is make beef into caviar to where people can't afford it. And they will settle for the fake commodity crap that they're about to start producing and start basically flooding the market with starting November 13th. It's coming.
Why November 13th? What is significant about November 13th? Why do you say that?
What's going on right now? We're having the climate summit. It's called COP26. They meet on Halloween. Very appropriate. It's in Glasgow, Scotland. Okay, what that basically going to be the final agreement of our carbon credit economy that we're about to unleash on the world. And what it is, you got 179 nations. And what they've agreed to the last, basically since 2013, they've been working on a carbon credit economy. One way they're coming after us as far as carnivores and beef eaters is they're trying to tax our cows. They're saying that, you know, red meat is bad for you. We know all of the stories that they've fabricated. And so after Glasgow, it ends on November 12th. They're going to start releasing new marketing plans across the world, and it's going to be based on a lot of fake meat. They have new fake meat industries that are popping up left and right, and they're paid by these global corporations. Well, these global corporations, and especially the processors, all four of them, already have major contracts with these fake meat companies, be it 3D printed meat or it be vegetable protein such as soy or pea protein. So what they're doing is creating a new fake commodity market, and they're about to release it onto the world. And these corporations, these food corporations, especially the industrial food complex, they've already signed on the dotted line. They have to follow the carbon credit economy. If they don't, they get penalized, and they're not part of the basically industrial food complex anymore. So you look at that, well, that goes down to grocery stores, that goes down to restaurants. If they're not buying the right type of food products from this industrial food complex, they're going to be penalized. And they're going to be penalized in a way that most of us as civilians in the long run will be penalized. It's a long-term plan. It's an 8-year plan, but basically November 12th is when they get their marching orders, and they're going to hit the streets, and then it'll hit the airways in ways that people aren't really kind of planning for.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly see how the media can certainly sway opinion, you know, with
Right.
nonstop 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, basically propaganda. We've seen that in a lot of things recently, unfortunately.
Yes.
How so? How do you propose that this is going to be able to overcome that? I mean, what if they make what you're doing illegal? Is there any thought on that, or I mean, what's the how do you protect yourself?
I don't think they're organized enough to go after the plan that I've got planned, because it's basically community based. It is in the state of Texas right now, what I'm doing. I hope it's scalable to other states. But what they're really going to do is try to do the type of propaganda like you speak of, more on the normal living person that shops at their HEB, their United, their Kroger's, their Walmart, that type of consumer. My type of consuming and consumption in my life is so far away from the mainstream, and it's been like that for a very long time now. So they're going to do it in stages, and they're going to do it in ways of like credit cards. Which credit cards you're using? I don't think they'll get down to the grassroots level. I don't think they can. I don't think the state of Texas will allow them, because we have a lot of leverage against the federal government in everything that they try to throw at us. We're fighting pretty hard right now. Other states probably might not have as much good luck as Texas. And that's why I think Texas is such an important place to kind of pioneer this new, more community base of sourcing your animal protein. At first, it's going to be a lot of commercial advertising. They're bringing in the Hollywood actors. They're bringing in all the influencers to say that fake meat is actually better for you and you're going to save the world by eating fake meat. Once again, it's a fake commodity that's going to make you obese, lazy, and ignorant and stupid, just like we've suffered through the last 50 years. Our nation is metabolically bankrupt right now. We're 78% overweight and obese. 1 out of 2 Americans are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. 46% of our children are obese or overweight, and nobody's really admitting why. It's because we have fake commodities, and it's done by the industrial food complex. They're not going to stop until people actually start changing their lifestyles. This is not nutrition. This is not a diet thing. This is a lifestyle thing. This is an awareness thing. And I think, what I'm doing is going to bring some new light into a little bit of freedom, a little bit of moxie, and a little bit of independence back to our mindsets. They're not going to touch that. They can't touch that. If we're willing to go toe to toe with the propaganda, then we're going to be okay. And once we get momentum, once we create a narrative that people are saying, "Damn right, this is how I'm going to start living my life now," then they're not going to take my freedoms away from me anymore, and they're sure as hell not going to take away my mindset anymore. I think we'll be okay.
You mentioned like the blockchain or decentralized, similar to how Bitcoin works. Can you explain in more detail how that works in this beef commodity or beef production system that you're envisioning?
Well, okay, this is going to be a short but and it's hard. You got to put up about 1,000 hours to understand Bitcoin to even begin to really understand it, which is fantastic. But you have blockchain, which are altcoins, and we call them, pardon the French, but a lot of people call them shit coins. We have altcoins, and we have crypto, we have blockchain, we have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only true blockchain. It is decentralized. It has no databases. It has no CEOs. It is run on a decentralized global network that nobody can turn off. It's been proven. It has proof of work. It is established. Okay, blockchain cryptos, they're basically centralized blockchain ideas. Within the beef industry, how they can use blockchain against the beef industry is a type of surveillance system. You're going to have monitoring, and you're going to be able to basically track every movement of everything the rancher does, a cow does. And so there's going to be a big battle about the understanding how blockchain is going to be used to destroy the beef industry in ways, and how Bitcoin, the original blockchain, will be used to save the beef industry. Whenever you have a decentralized communication network, they cannot touch it. We already have a decentralized beef network in the state of Texas, more so than any other state. That's why, because we don't have to fully rely on the USDA. We have to, yes, we're not totally separated from the USDA, but we have a decentralized way of sourcing our beef right now that most people do not understand. And so if you leverage the Bitcoin mindset of decentralization, the Bitcoin protocol with a utility-based layer that you can put on top of it, you're able to basically have transactional activity that you can exchange beef through a Bitcoin network.
Yeah, interesting. How do you get around that? So you mentioned that proposals for taxing, taxing beef to a point where it's something that ranchers can't withstand. They go out of business. How does this help with that if they're going to tax? I saw some ridiculous number like $2,000 on a tax on a cow, which is more than a cow's worth in many cases, what they can get at market. So is that just fake news, I suppose, that they're going to tax that much, or how do you get around some of the regulatory pressures that may be coming?
Yeah, that it was $2,600 a cow, and that's still up for debate if it's going to happen or not. What that is, that's part of, it's kind of a distraction, because what the administration has also said, as they're talking out that side of their mouth, that this tax is coming, they're saying they're going to destroy the processors. So they're basically causing distractions and confusion. How you get around that? Whenever I was on harvest, I talked to people all the way up to North Dakota and back. Some people are thinking about getting out of the USDA altogether. That's going to be a hard thing to do, of course, because it's a federal law. But there's a lot of politicians that are beef focused, that there's going to be some lobbying that happens in the state of Texas. We can basically get around the USDA in ways that other states can't. I see there's a fight ahead. They're going to try to tax our food in ways that it's never been taxed. They are going to try to destroy the cattle rancher. They're having success. A lot of them are getting out. Some of them are getting out while they can, unfortunately. And so that's not something that anybody can answer right now. What it takes is everybody to quit buying their beef at Walmart and to go out there and find their local producer and say, hey, I'm on your side. I want to support you. And it doesn't have to be more expensive. I just bought, I don't know, $20 the other day, 20 pounds of beef the other day. It averaged out. It was a variety of cut. It was $7 a pound, grass-fed beef. That's cheaper than Walmart industrialized hormone-fed beef. So people have to take intentional actions. By doing that, we're going to change the narrative. The beef industry is very powerful. It is one of the most powerful things in the state of Texas. People think of oil in Texas. Nah, beef was how Texas came to be. That we basically fed the nation in the late 1800s, and a lot of people didn't realize that, and they do not realize the history of that. So Texas is going to have to take the lead on this, and other states are going to have to follow. But it's going to take everybody that's listening here to go and find your local producers. They're out there. They just probably don't know how to reach the masses. It's going to take all of us to go out there and decentralize a way and create a party line that everybody's involved with their local producers.
Yeah, we maintain a pretty significant list of local producers and links to other lists, on our website for people that are just looking at that. We've got like thousands of them listed. So that's a great message. And I think it's something that if you can at all find a way to do that, look around, you might find that some of these things are cheaper than you think. I just for the first time got a chest freezer. So I'm looking forward to getting probably, I think I can fit a half, a half a beef in there, which I'll be looking forward to do fairly quick here.
Sure.
Do you know what, so you mentioned that, the consumer is really what's going to make this happen. I mean, I think this is, you can have all the producers you want, but what compels the producers to do this? Can they make a living under your system, or can they make a better living even?
They can make a better living. And I was talking to, and I'll plug the ranch. It's called 2S Ranch, 2sranch.com, and his name is Bart. You know, he said one of the problems that he sees as a producer is that he does have to sell outside of his region right now to be able to survive. But what he does have a system where he sells out on the coast. People are buying his beef out there in California. And so what we have to do is we have to get back to the community level. If he had more people that were aware of him, sometimes people don't even know what's in their backyard. And so, but he lives in a place, it's close to Mineral Wells, Texas, which is pretty rural. But if he had more local people buying his beef instead of relying on the, I call it a high time preference type of consumption model, if they were just, hey, maybe Saturday mornings, they go out to his ranch, teach your kids a little bit about ranching, you know, he'd be all right. He'd make a living. He'd make a better living. There's a lot of regenerative farmers that have, there's a guy, I believe, up in Minneapolis, a couple of close up to Canada. I can't remember exactly the state, but they're starting to make better profits than the industrial production and processing of animal and of produce. So there is a tide that is shifting. People think that organic and good grass-fed beef or produce is more expensive. It's not, because you're going to eat less, unless there's somebody like you or me that eats 2 to 3 pounds of beef every day. But mostly the average consumer, they're going to find out that they don't have to eat as much as this processed food, especially processed carbohydrates, when you get to a more carnivore diet. So you have to hit it from a different, you know, a couple of different fronts. And I see a lot of guys starting to make a good living. And once again, it's going to high quality. And it doesn't have to be a quantity model. We shot for quantity back in the day because we were trying to, you know, stave off starvation, especially like in, you know, during the Great Depression, and that evolved and evolved. We're not worried about starvation anymore. This is not a problem of starvation. It's a problem of quality, because we've sacrificed quality through yields and quality. And that has led us to basically being dependent on these industrial food complex, these global food group people. So yeah, you can make a dang good living off of it. You can have a high luxury type of lifestyle growing your own beef. You've got to do it right though. You've got to redo your soil in a way that is something that's going to happen naturally and not rely on all these herbicides, pesticides that we rely on with all these major corporations. It is a lifestyle.
I know of like I said, I have the fortune to talk to a lot of ranchers, and I know a lot of people that are trying to fix this problem, which, you know, is clearly an issue or a potential, you know, where they're trying to drive people out of business and, you know, feed us, you know, basically the, you know, fiat food to keep it in sort of Bitcoin terms. What is it going to take for you to be successful? I mean, is it an injection of money? Is it enough ranchers participating? What is a road, the path to success for what you're doing? And I see the 2S. I know Bart Simmons. I've talked to him before. He's a great guy.
Awesome. Yeah.
He's another guy who went on a carnivore diet, reduced psoriasis, and
yeah.
I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but I'm familiar with him in the 2S range. But what's it going to take to be successful?
Well, and you bring up a good point as far as, you know, is there going to be an inflection of money? Yeah, there's going to be a little money that's going to, I'm doing everything right now out of my own pocket, which is, I have no problem doing, because I don't want to come across as LARPing or, you know, shilling as something just to make some fiat cash. This is not what this is about. What I see in the long run, I'll paint a roadmap here. What I'm doing is I travel to Austin quite often, and I'm contacting every one of these beef suppliers that I can between here and Austin. And then of course, in any direction, really. What we're going to do is we're going to create a roadmap. We're going to create basically an analog signal of everybody that wants to be involved. I'm already contacting several organizations. One's called the Ogallala Commons. They're creating food sheds, like I said before. So as we move forward, once we get this narrative going, I'm going to start doing a podcast as well. And so once we get this going, I see success starting happening from the ground up. And what we're going to do, we're going to ride the success and the attention and adoption of Bitcoin and we're going to do it hand in hand. We're going to make Bitcoin adoption and understanding and awareness symbiotic with grass-fed beef. That's where I'm going to focus on, or just organic beef, good beef, quality beef. And basically the narrative is always going to be the same. By creating this type of understanding at the same time and being symbiotic with Bitcoin, the money will come in, the support will come in, and people are going to join in just as much as they're joining in and saying, hey, I'm gonna get a little bit of Bitcoin, or I'm gonna start looking at Bitcoin in a different way. Because Bitcoin is great. It is, it's good to have it. But what Bitcoin is very, very important that a lot of people aren't talking about is the mindset that you get back. The mindset of my grandfather, who was a farmer, he was very decentralized. And once people start decentralizing their life, they're going to want to invest in the decentralization of their food, because they're going to understand that their food right now is the most important thing they need to be looking at. Wealth is great, money is great, but if you're not getting the nutrition to your brain, you know this, you're the doctor, you are the king of carnivores, that we're not going to have much of a life anyways. So once that momentum picks up, I am going to ask for people, hey, help me out here a little bit. We got the developers, we got the designers, we've got the producers, we've got the processors, we've got the suppliers. Let's all do this together. Let's join in, and there'll be a platform that it is being built. And I've been in some very successful startup companies that started with very little money, but once we started getting the signal and the framing, people joined in, and it started to happen.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that, within this entire cryptocurrency world, I mean, Bitcoin, it seems the people that are into Bitcoin uniquely are into it, not for just financial gain, where some of the altcoin stuff is kind of just a way to get more quote unquote fiat money. It's more sort of transformational as the way we live as a society. I think that mindset is there, and I think that's what a lot of people see. And you see these people coming together to really say we've got to fix the system because the system is clearly broken. And so how, what kind of reception are you? I mean, obviously within the beef industry, you've got ranchers that like, hey, this might be good to me. But within the Bitcoin sphere, I know there's guys like Untapped Growth that talk, and I don't know what his real name is, but there's a couple guys in this Bitcoin space that are trying to do stuff in the food sector. What kind of reception are you getting within the Bitcoin community as a whole?
Well, there's been some good food guys, beef guys in the Bitcoin community. Joel is Untapped Growth. He's doing a phenomenal job as creating a lot of awareness, and he's really, taking it to a new level. Bitcoiners are starting to wake up as well, because the narrative is always, hey, Bitcoin adoption, know about Bitcoin. But now that we're getting some food intelligence into the mix, there's a lot of people starting to pay attention, and they're starting to understand it's just not about Bitcoin. It's not about just the monetary system. It's about the food system. It's about the acquisition system. It's about the decentralized way of thinking. So I think it's about to explode in ways Bitcoin is, and just basically food intelligence all together. You don't have to be a Bitcoiner to know and want to be part of food intelligence. And you don't have to basically be, too savvy with food intelligence yet, but guess what? You're going to have to be moving forward, because if you're taking your food for granted, your nutrition for granted, guess what? You're going to have a bunch of Bitcoin wealth, but you're not going to enjoy it, because you're not going to have any store of value of nutrition that you can speak of, and you're not going to enjoy your life as much. So bringing them two together, the Bitcoiners are going to jump on board, and they're going to start making it part of their conferences. They're going to start making it part of their cities, their communities, because it's all about a community-based system. It is about mesh networking. It is about small regional networks being powerful instead of this big global or even this federal, national level of everything is a collective. Collectivism on that size of a scale is not wise, but collectivism in like within a Bitcoin industry or community and within the beef industry, they go hand in hand. They are symbiotic.
Yeah, and so you're talking about like a local mesh system, a community of people that, work, as individual units, I guess, or collective units that work alongside, or there's going to be I think there's still going to be many people that are going to be stuck in the, maybe unwillingly or unwittingly stuck in this fiat food, sort of centralized system. But do you think that we can operate outside of that independently, and you can bring people that are like-minded and still have a life that they want to pursue? Is that what you're thinking about?
I am. I mean, I look at history and how things have changed, transformations, renaissances, everything that we've done, even the history of the United States. 3% of the colonists only participated in the revolution. Rest of them were basically had a feudalistic mindset. Said, we don't care. We'll have a noble. We just want to grow our potatoes. They didn't really go out there and have a pioneering spirit and say, hey, I'm going to be part of this revolution. Right now, I think I'm talking to 3% of the people. That's fine with me, because this is a quality game. This is not a quantity game for me. And I see it as, if you don't want to join in, then you can go eat your pizza pockets. And this is not me being a smart ass, but I am being a smart ass. Go eat your pizza pockets, go eat your chicken tendies, and continue down that metabolical failure and get, compromise your children's health, compromise your health. You don't have to do it that way. You can join in. It's going to happen. We're going to go toe to toe with the food industry, and we're going to come out on top, because guess what? No matter if you shut down the internet, no matter whatever people talk about as these doomsday scenarios, we're still going to have protein in our freezers at home, and we're still going to be able to survive. And if you want to have that mindset and that lifestyle, it's pretty damn cool way to think. It is a form of self-empowerment that I think the centralized system really takes away from our philosophy, especially as Americans, especially as Texans. And so I can't talk to the 100% of the people out there. I think there will be a parallel type of food sourcing society that happens. How is that going to change on a national level, even on a global level? I'm not for sure. Right now, I've got to be focused on my community first, then the state of Texas after that. And I think that we're really going to see a new type of pioneering spirit that comes across the whole state of Texas.
Yeah, I think, I think that you quoted 3% of the people that, cared enough to start a revolutionary war, which this country was in part founded on. I think we have far more than 3% of the people that are waking up to this. And if anything, the events of the last year and a half to 2 years has kind of gotten a lot of people on alerts. And I think, it's just a matter of sort of organizing in a way so that enough people can participate. I think you got a lot of people that don't know what to do. They know something wrong is going on, but they don't know how to fix it. They don't know what their options are. And I think this is something that is more and more intelligent, because there's a lot of intelligent, capable, resourceful people out there that have a lot of resources, funding, that are working on this problem independently. So bringing them together, this may be one of the ways to do that. Do you find that, within the United States, because we still have to live within we still have a government that we have to live under. Do you find that people like, I know Governor Abbott has basically, been very vocal opposing some national initiatives, with regard to mandates of vaccine mandates. He just told the UN to go pound sand about, restricting the oil production. Do you find that there are enough people within, local, regional, state, and national government that can help make this happen?
I do. There's two things I want to touch on right now. The Great Reset, all this stuff that's going on, and a lot of people don't truly understand the intentions behind it. They're not as organized as everybody likes them to think that they are. It is propaganda that's done by the media. Whenever you get down on the grassroots community level, people don't understand how powerful that is. And whenever you have a state like Texas that can, tell the UN to go pound sand, they are setting a precedence, and we have a lot of leverage as a state. Well, let's look at that. Let's look at that on an individual level. Whenever you're ready to go toe to toe with the propaganda and understand that they're not as powerful as you think they are, they have to work in a numbers game. If they can get certain percentages, they work off of data. They're statist people. They have to work off data, and that's the only thing they work off of. They don't work off human spirit. They don't work off anything else like that. State of Texas is it's a republic. A republic means something in the long run. That's my mindset. I think across the country, you brought up that there's, over 3%. Yeah, there is. And if we can get momentum of spirit and momentum of dialogue and momentum of awareness going, they don't have a chance. And they know this, and they're scared because they're knee jerking right now. They're really they're further along than they thought they would be as far as their overall agenda, the 2030 agenda. But if we can basically do things like me, what I'm doing, what you're doing, we can get the signal out there and we can frame our lifestyles in a different way. They're going to adopt to us. They're going to play in our sandbox. We're not going to play in their sandbox. And there's going to be politicians that are going to say, oops, I can't be bought out anymore. I've got to do what my community is saying, or I'm not going to have much of anything. And so you're going to start seeing that. There's some states that are doing that. Florida's doing it. DeSantis is doing that. Abbott is doing that. They're politicians. We have to remember they're politicians. I'm not a politician. You're not a politician. Everybody that's on this show right now, they're not politicians. We're the people, and we're the ones that had the final say. And so by creating an initiative like the Texas Beef Initiative, it has something of purity and honesty to it. It has tradition and it has heritage. If we can get back to our heritage, our tradition, we don't have to listen to the noise anymore, because at the end of the day, we are providing protein to our brain. We are more powerful than them because they're not. They're still living a life of fake commodities, of false fiat value, and of corruption. And if people do not believe that, then, tune in a little bit more, and we'll provide even more truth that I do every week. I do my intelligence report, every Sunday night. So, it's happening. There's a lot of traction, and I'm ready for the fight.
You see, was it Yellen, the I guess the chairman of the Fed, I guess,
Yeah.
pushing on a thing that they're going to start taxing unrealized gain, which assets that may not be worth anything, they're going to tax.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to lose money. What are your thoughts on that? Is that an affront to the people holding Bitcoin and cryptocurrency right now? Is that what it's directed at?
Yeah, that's a threat to unrealized gains, because that's the only way that they can basically tax people that's never going to cash out their Bitcoin. Good luck on that. I think that, I think this whole administration, and I'm not a political guy, so don't think I am. I'm a Texan. That's it. That's all I'll say about that. But what I see the administration doing right now, especially Yellen, is they're basically trying to tax air as it goes along with the narrative of the carbon credit economy. They're going to tax anything that they can tax. And whenever I say carbon credit economy, that's what they're trying to do. In the long run, that's what that means. They're taxing air. They're taxing you to be able to survive and to breathe the air that you do. Yellen saying they're going to do unrealized gains. Good luck. You want to talk about losing a lot of people. That was a Sunday morning show, whatever it was. I don't even know what it was on. I don't watch TV anymore. But all she's doing is creating waves. She's creating distractions, and people just need to, I would blow that crap off, because that's all it is. They can talk all day they want. If, within prohibition creates mass innovation. So just keep on doing what they're trying to do. And we're just going to innovate until they can't basically prohibit anymore. And we've seen it in history of man. We've seen it It happens. So as far as Yellen doing that, I think it gets a lot of attention right now. I think some Bitcoiners that are using exchanges still, they don't know what ownership and self-custody is. They're going to learn about ownership and self-custody. I'm a Bitcoiner. I'm never going to tell you how much Bitcoin I have, and you're never going to see my Bitcoin. And so good luck. And, once people understand what true ownership is again, and quit being so feudalistic and kind of, I call it, rent sinking, once we start owning our nutrition, owning our value again, we're going to win in the long run. So the government can act like they're going to come after Bitcoin all they want. They say China has outlawed Bitcoin how many times now? Each time they do, it gets stronger. United States government is not going to get rid of Bitcoin. In the long run, this is my opinion only. In my opinion only, Bitcoin will come down to national security in ways that people have no clue of yet.
Yeah, I mean, some people would argue that, we've seen some of these technology giants, Google, Amazon, Facebook, so on and so forth, have basically become their own independent sovereign, countries, so to speak. Is
Sure.
there any reason to think that through innovation and technology, Bitcoin won't do the same and be perhaps even more powerful?
And I'd say within the 10, 15 years, Bitcoin will be bigger than Apple, Google, Amazon combined, with no question. Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol, basically, that can store value, and it has a monetary exchange capability. My grandchildren will ask me, what was the internet? People don't see that yet. They don't understand how we had to build on top of the internet in the beginning. They don't understand that at times you cannot buy Apple stock in certain states, the manipulation that went on. They don't understand that Amazon almost got shut down because they weren't taxing it. They couldn't find a way to tax it. I think that Bitcoin is going to be far stronger, far bigger than anything a lot of the mainstream media and even the mainstream financial guys understand. And that's fine. That's going to be an argument that takes place the next 5 years at least. And once people understand what it really is, what Bitcoin, the protocol really is, they're going to go, oh my gosh, we can build on this. Michael Saylor put it very well. He said, buying Bitcoin right now is like buying 4 blocks in Manhattan before Manhattan was Manhattan. They built on Manhattan because it was a strong foundational rock of granite. That's what Bitcoin is as a network. And so once people start understanding how to build utility, when we had the internet in the beginning, we didn't have banking on the internet. We had to build utility on top of the internet so banks could use it, so we could buy a pair of shoes, so we could buy food. Everything that we do now took time to do. Same with Bitcoin. And once people really understand that and quit fighting it so much and saying it's not anything except trying to create a new base layer of value in this world, it's not really trying to steal from anybody. Everybody can be involved. And so, yeah, I do see Bitcoin being bigger than any type of basically layer on top of the internet that we've built, those being Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, Apple.
All right. Well, Tracy, we're almost out of time here. This has been truly an interesting discussion, and I think it'll raise a lot of questions and get a lot of people thinking. Where do people go to find out more information? I know you're on Twitter. I know you've got some kind of website or something like that. Can you tell us where to go to find all that stuff?
Yeah, it's at Modern T Man on Twitter, and you can DM me through there if you want to have additional information. You can also go to initiative.substack.com, and you can communicate with me through there. I'm finishing out my platform right now. It'll be a better communication platform. That'll probably be up in probably a couple weeks. But best just follow me on Twitter right now. I don't use any other social media besides Twitter, and I use my Substack right now for my newsletter. I try to keep it very simple. I'm not going to spread out a lot right now. I'm not going to do a lot of centralized legacy type of marketing. This is all going to be viral, word of the mouth, grassroots type stuff.
All right. Well, thank you again so much. And maybe we'll have you come back for an update. Let us know what we can do to support this, because I'm certainly in favor of anything that protects our right to freedoms and our right to decent nutrition. So let me know what I can do in the future. Okay.
Hey, Shawn, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that we crossed paths, and honored to be on your show. And I appreciate everybody for tuning in as well.
Awesome. Well, next time I get to Texas, we'll have to hook up and eat a steak together. How's that sound?
I'll supply it. How's that?
Sounds good. All right, guys. Everybody
Okay.
take care. We'll see you guys back tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Thanks.
Join Revero.health for a 30-day free trial to get access to live Q&A with VIP guests, social community meetings, member discounts, low-carb healthcare providers list, forum, workouts, monthly challenges, early access to podcasts, recipes, carnivore diet guide, fasting guide, shred guide, and much more.